So today I want to talk about Elvis movies and specifically ranking all of his movies in what order I think are my favorites. And really just because I like talking about Elvis anything Elvis, anything that has to do with his movies, his music, Graceland, of course, anything and everything Elvis. And so I just felt like I wasn't really getting my fix. I don't have a lot of people to talk about Elvis the way that I like to talk about him, getting a little bit, conversational with that. I don't have a lot of friends who are as big of an Elvis fan as I am. They like his music, of course. I mean, what's not to like about that? But anyway, so today I thought, maybe we just talk about his movies and what order I kind of like them in, starting at the bottom, and then we'll work our way up. And of course, Elvis had 31 featured films. I know there's a couple that were live concert, but I'm going to be talking about the ones that were scripted and that he played a character in. So I'll save the other ones for maybe doing a live version, a live concert, greatest performances, maybe something like that. But I've got my notes here because it did take a while to kind of come up with an order because I feel like this may change in a year, may change in 6 months, may change tomorrow. I don't know. But as of right now, as of this video, this is kind of the order of those movies and how I see them all the way up to my favorite. So we're going to be counting from bottom to up. And coming in at number 31 is The Trouble with Girls. And sometimes it's called The Trouble with Girls and How to Get Into It. This was made in, or at least released in, I think I'll stick with the word release, because sometimes they were filmed a little bit before they were released, maybe sometimes like 6 months or so. But this was released in 1969. This would be his second to last film that came out, and he had two in 1969. I first want to say that, somebody's maybe least favorite Elvis movie could be somebody's favorite. And I love that because they, some of them get a little similar, but I think that they all offer something pretty unique if you are, a true fan. But this one in particular, I just felt like the story is very awkward, right? So there's this main focus of the plot, which is this event called Chautauqua. And Chautauqua is, or Chautauqua, make sure I get that right. Chautauqua was a real thing that was pretty popular maybe around the turn of the century, 19th or 20th century, 1900s, maybe in the 20s, 30s. And it was kind of a traveling showcase where they would put on a play and have musical events, musical acts, and kind of a carnival, maybe minus a lot of the rides. But in my opinion, the movie should have been called Chautauqua. I mean, I don't really know what the trouble with girls. I think they were still trying to just hold on to any little bit of the girl in the title formula with Elvis. So I don't know. But it just felt like that could have been a cool story, a cool storyline, a cool plot. But of course, they're trying to basically, just fit a mold that was definitely outgrown and, basically the saying of trying to fit a square peg into a circle hole. Like it just wasn't working. And, the acting was just very mediocre. Nothing special about that in any way. To me, Elvis even looked a little bit annoyed with it. I don't know if this was when, a little bit of a dependency was happening on medication to get him through. Just the awful scripts, the awful acting, very low budget, this one. He's basically in the same outfit the whole time. I think everybody is. And it was just not a very good story. And I will say this though, some of the highlights for me was a couple of the songs. So Clean Up Your Own Backyard was in that. I love that song. I thought that was a great single that came out. Um, I think it was on the fourth greatest hits. Really liked that one. And then I believe, was it Sweet Chariot? A little gospel number in there. You could tell that was probably the only time that you could tell that Elvis might have been enjoying himself. But overall, that's just kind of why that one comes in last for me. I've only seen it a couple of times. It's not one that I just sort of think about and say, oh, haven't seen that in a while. Let me put that in. It's not really one of those. And there for a while was actually hard to find on DVD, but you can actually find them and not for too much money. I think they've packaged them where you get like 3 or 4 movies in one, and that one's included on there. But let's move on. And yeah, definitely going to have to break this in probably into 3 parts. Maybe we'll do like, try to get 10, 11 in one. But anyways, coming in at number 30, Paradise Hawaiian Style. Maybe this isn't so far down on the list for some of you, but for me it was just, I think it was, well, it wasn't the last beachy movie that he made. This one came out, it was released in 1966, and I just feel like it was a really bad attempt in trying to recreate Blue Hawaii, like really bad attempt. And supposedly that was kind of what Colonel wanted out of this one, was to get it to be a attempt to recreate Blue Hawaii. Not so great. You can tell that Elvis is a little bit overweight in this one. And when I say a little bit overweight, I mean the guy was super, super skinny. I don't think a lot of people realize how slender Elvis was. And so when he gained a little bit of weight, it showed. And I think that maybe some of the wardrobe just didn't accommodate for that. And so doesn't have like a flattering look to any of the scenes that much. I mean, he still looks great, right? But it's kind of sentimental, or it's kind of symbolic, I guess, of trying to fit that mold into something that just wasn't fitting right. But I feel like maybe this was kind of that downfall. 1966, when they're really trying hard to just pump them out. Like this was when they started trying to get 3 out a year. And they didn't care about the scripts. They didn't care about any of this stuff. They didn't care about the budget. The budgets didn't have to be big anyways, and which was great because these were the movies that these production companies would spend little on. I think probably the most that they would spend on it was actually Elvis's salary for it. And he would get, up to this point, he was still getting 50% of the profits, which, you guessed it, he only got half of those anyways, because everything that Elvis made, the Colonel took 50%. He took half of it. So Elvis, if he got $1 million to do this movie, he really only had 500,000. And what did the Colonel do? Zero. Did nothing. Absolutely nothing. Gets his name. Probably even got the studios to pay him a salary for having that title, technical advisor, on every single one of his movies. Like, what is that about? But anyways, just not a great movie, trying to keep the formula going. And this one gets played a lot on TV every now and then during Elvis Week, or around his birthday. But moving on, 29 is Harem Scarum. Now, this may be some people's favorite movie. I don't know. It could have been a lot better than what it was. It could have been a really cool storyline. It got a little cheesy for me, and I don't know, just bad script on this one, I think. I think it was one of those situations where, why do we have a song in this scene? Doesn't really make any sense. It did make, listen to this, it made the 100 most enjoyable bad movies ever made. I mean, that kind of sums it up, right? You've got a lot going on in this movie, but it just made it sort of chaotic. very hectic, sort of no real direction with it. It was cool to see him play a different role or a different setting, maybe than a beach or a racetrack or something like that, or even a stage. Well, I guess he was on a stage a little bit. It's so funny, this one, because he's playing a guy or playing an actor who made a movie in the Middle East and is kidnapped by some terrorists who want to kill a king or prince, and it's just all over the place. So let's move on. Number 28, Clam Bake. Now, Clam Bake, another beach movie. This was actually the third movie, I believe, that Shelley Fabrice was in. And this one has, an interesting story to it. Not the actual story of the movie, but how or what all kind of went on before he was able to make it. This was right before Elvis had that really bad fall and concussion, and there's a lot of things that kind of circulate about that incident. And he didn't want to go make this movie. It was right after he got married. I think this was kind of when he just was feeling really over the whole silly movies, silly scripts, very fast pace, get it over with, because these studios, these movie production companies. What I was going to say earlier that I forgot, but they would spend as little money possible on these Elvis movies, and then they would make quite a bit of money. They were very popular. Elvis had such a secure, huge, broad fan base that, and to be honest with you, I don't even know if you can compare anybody to that now. Maybe the only one that you could really compare that to currently is Taylor Swift. She is, worldwide superstar, and, just everybody just really likes her. And so I feel like when they would know that about Elvis, or at least nobody else at the time was like that, and they would make a lot of money from these silly movies and use them to make their more serious ones that they knew that would get, a more of an artist appeal, more of creative and award nominations. But this one, Clam Bake, happened to be the last movie that Elvis was given $1 million to make. After this one, it'd be less than that. And it was just because the appeal was slowly trickling away. But let's see, what else do I have on this movie? It's also said, like I was saying when we first started talking about Clam Bake, this could have been, the introduction of some diet pills. Not to say that he hadn't taken diet pills before or any sort of stimulant medication, but I feel like this was when the production companies were saying he was a little bit overweight and to kind of lose it fairly fast, like coming off. But the guy was coming off of his honeymoon. He was coming off a little bit of a break, and yeah, he was having fun on Circle G Ranch, and the last thing he wanted to do was come make a silly beach movie like Clam Bake. But let's move on to another silly movie, Easy Come, Easy Go. This one came out the same year because this was really when they started doing the trying to get in 3 movies a year. And there's really nothing that I can say about this. It's very forgettable, except for the scene where Elvis is trying yoga. It's pretty funny. And other than that, it gets played on TV a lot. You can find this copy, I feel like, in DVD form anywhere. You can find this one more often than you can any of the other ones. And I probably am being a little generous by putting that one up at 27, but I think it was a little bit different. There's a lot of scuba diving scenes in that, so maybe that's why it got stuck up there. All right, 26 is Double Trouble. This was the third one that came out in 1967, and this one takes place in London. Of course, not filmed there. Unfortunately, Elvis never got to go and perform in any place overseas. So, but we can pretend in his movies that he went. And it's a pretty lighthearted one. There's a little bit of a mystery thriller going on in it. But other than that, it's just an okay story. You can find it pretty easily on DVDs. Number 25, Spin Out. Came out in 1966. Again, a race car driver. He made several of those. It was supposed to be called California Holiday, which, I don't really know what would spin out. I think probably when that happens is because they've got a song that they want to use as the title of the movie so that it can go along with the soundtrack. So you can find that easier in the stores. But it actually did become the title of the movie in the UK. So in the UK, when this movie came out, you went to go see California Holiday instead of Spin Out. It's a pretty fun story. It's a little bit different. It is one of the few where Elvis actually does not end up with the leading girl of the movie. There's a few of them in this one, and he actually doesn't end up with any of them. So I know, sorry. I guess I should have said spoiler alert in the beginning, but I'm also trying to not edit these as much. I have another YouTube channel, and I just feel like I spend too much time editing those things because I'm using that as it's more of a teaching thing. If you're into your home studio and mixing and mastering music, I've got a channel for you. But yeah, so I'm not going to be editing this one quite as much. This is more of a conversation. The reason that I created this channel was to just get my fix in talking about Elvis stuff, and in case, there's somebody out there who enjoys the same thing, leave me comments, leave me a lightning bolt. If you're a big Elvis fan and that's how you found this video, leave me one of those lightning bolts, like in the TCB logo. And you can leave that in the comments. Yeah, so Spin Out, that's an okay movie. I just watched that one actually not too long ago. And coming in right after that, Speedway. Again, more racing characters. This one came out in 1968. We've got a co-star in this one, Nancy Sinatra. Yes, Frank's daughter. So it was kind of fun to see that. This one was originally meant for Sonny and Cher. But they had just come out with a movie, I think, and so they weren't really wanting to do another one back to back like that. Why? It worked for Elvis. Or did it? There was a lot of NASCAR drivers in this one. If you see, they have a little cameo with their names at the bottom. Yeah, those were real, actual NASCAR drivers. This was it's been said, or at least I saw this somewhere, so I wrote it down, that this was the last of the Presley movie formula, which kind of makes sense because after this one, I think we get into maybe Stay Away Joe, which is actually next in line here. Also came out in 68. But I kind of feel like that's a true statement as far as the Presley movie formula with the beach or the race cars. Because he started, playing some different characters after that. Even though there was only a handful of movies left to be made, I do kind of think that was probably the end of the formula there. And, we're getting into the late 60s. And so those types of movies, that type of atmosphere is getting to be a little far-fetched for what was going on, socially, culturally, just politically, all of that distress and oppression. And we won't get into that on this channel. But I think that, makes sense that it's going to be a little hard to push that Elvis movie formula after that year. But yeah, so at 23, we've got Stay Away Joe. And I thought this was, I like this movie. However, it's not probably, I'm going to say it's considered a little offensive today. but I think it was satire. It was, just in the, art form of comedy. It's funny. I mean, watch it. Think, judge for yourself on that one. But I actually did quite enjoy that one. I don't really want to give away anything on that one. Um, it's just like one thing after another, right? Trying to overcome. Like they have a problem, they try to fix it with a certain solution. That solution turns into another problem, and it just kind of continues at that way. But lots of laughs along the way. And number 22, Girl Happy in 1965 when that came out. And the theme song of this movie gets stuck in my head a lot. This was another one that comes on TV quite a bit. And so every time it's on, the song is always stuck in my head. Storyline, there's some more beach themes, spring break, things like that. This was when this one came out, Elvis wouldn't do another shirtless scene again. So I know there's some other movies like Blue Hawaii is one that pops into my head right away. Kid Galahad, shirtless. Maybe a little bit of, maybe there's some scenes in Follow That Dream, but after those, this was the first movie that, when there was a water or beach scene, Elvis wouldn't do it shirtless, and he didn't do any other since then. And he's even got on long sleeves when he's doing the water scene here. It's a little bit weird because it almost looks like a jacket, but anyways. Number 21, Change a Habit. This came out in 1969. This was Elvis's last movie, as far as one with a script and a character. I think this may be some people's top, and I can see why. It just, I feel like there were some missed opportunities. I feel like these came too late, and he just didn't seem connected to any of the characters. I think he might have been overacting. I think he was really, after the success of the 68 comeback special. And then, of course, in 69, he was getting ready to do Vegas. And so I think maybe his creative side was just a little bit more involved in thinking about those live performances and getting back to a live audience instead of, just learning a script, performing in front of fellow actors and production crew. So that's kind of where my mind is on those, especially the later ones. And of course, Rubbernecking's in there. Love that song. Love that song. And yeah, so after that, we've got Charo. I actually really like this one. That's why it's coming in at 20. Again, if I feel like if he was really still in the acting, if these were the movies that came out before, a little bit earlier, then they would have been stellar performances, and we would have had like some better reviews from critics. Not a lot of singing. In fact, I don't even think he sings in this movie. I don't think he sings this movie. I know the song, the title song Charo, is at the beginning of the movie, but he's not singing it on camera. Just kind of playing over the credits that are coming in. Elvis has a beard. It's the only movie he had a beard in, facial hair. And he grew it in pretty nicely, right? Looks good. I don't know why he didn't keep a beard look. I feel like if Elvis would have lived longer than he did, maybe he would have gotten into the beard look. I feel like he would have. He grew a great beard. I was actually really surprised. And if you look closely, like, that's his real facial hair. This was actually originally for Clint Eastwood. Can you believe that? Like I said, it was an okay script. It was changed, however, from when Clint probably read the script. So they made it. I feel like they just underestimated Elvis. I feel like they dumbed it down a little bit. I don't know why they would have done that. However, in that one, there was a little bit more violence written in, a little bit of nudity. But believe it or not, there was some nudity left in the Elvis script. It was for a woman, but it was cut from the movies, the original release. But I do believe that there are some versions, some unedited versions on DVD or when VHS first released it, that keep that scene in there. Apparently, it's at the beginning, so you can check that out. I watched it on TV the last couple of times. I do own it, but I have to go back and see if my version has that. But yeah, so we're at number 20. So I think that's a good place to stop. We're kind of getting close to, we're over 25 minutes. So that wasn't my intention. But you know how these things go. We just start talking about things that we enjoy, and hopefully there's some people on here who like Elvis movies as well. Hopefully you're a big Elvis fan, but that's not the whole goal of this channel. It's kind of just it's my Elvis journal in a way, and just a way to be able to talk about Elvis stuff, anything Elvis. And I see quite a few channels on here that there's some really good Elvis content on here, but there's also some really bad Elvis content on here. And I feel like the intention is just to try to make money off of it and be a little controversial. I don't want to do that at all. These are all my opinions. Obviously, I have been an Elvis fan for a very long time. Since, believe it or not, since the mid to late 80s. That shows my age a little bit. The first time that I ever went to Graceland, in fact, was in 1988. Yeah, they had real tour guides then. And Aunt Delta still lived there. Saw a peep of her. But anyways, I've been 11 times since then. I've read tons of books. I have bookshelves full of Elvis books. So pretty well educated on it. And so, yeah, this is just a place for me to kind of hang out and talk about my love of Elvis and all things Elvis. So anyways, if you did enjoy this video, hit the subscribe button and we'll just talk about Elvis all the time, right? All right, y'all. So I will do a part 2 and then obviously a part 3 for this. But yeah, so anyways, if you stayed until now, thank you so much. And I guess I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, y'all.